Alright guys, morning. It's a little after sunrise now. I'm not going to be able to be out here long. It's going to get hot quick. I'm out here chilling with my favorite tree. I got my favorite little black lab crab eater. She's off gone finding some crabs. Running around out here. Her owners must have taken the boat out. They just leave her on the beach when they go. But if you want to understand who I am, you're going to kind of have to understand where I came from. I don't know if you guys can see all the light shimmering up through the Spanish moss. It's so pretty. Most people already know my mother. She was born and raised in New York, and my father was born and raised in North Carolina. And I grew up with half of my childhood on Long Island in New York, and half of my childhood in the South in Virginia. But where I get a lot of my attitude from, and the reason I have a hard time getting along with my mother, is because I am more like my father, which is where I also get all my Celtic genes from. And my eyes, and my freckles, and the red tint in my hair, and my addictive personality. So, well, let's talk about him. He grew up in a small town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. He grew up between there and Asheville. And he was forced to join the military, where he met my mother. He joined the Navy after he got busted selling pot in, I don't know, I guess he must have been just out of high school. And that was back in the days where they would give you the option of 4 years in the military or 4 years in jail. So he took the military. He ended up being a 27-year lifer in the Navy. He was a bosun's mate chief, which for anybody who doesn't know the Navy, a bosun's mate chief is just pretty much the biggest asshole on deck. No joke, that's his job. He's just, bosses people around and yells at them all day on deck. He's all the swab the deck guy. And they had me and my sister. Now, I was never really got along with my father, ever. As much as I was just like him, I could not bond with him at all for some reason. He tried to teach me how to ride a bike. I pitched a fit and threw my bike after about the third or fourth time falling down, and he walked off and left me to learn on my own. My mother had to yell out more than once in my younger years, out loud, "Please don't kill her." He was a drunk, is a drunk. Still is. He lives 2 hours away from me, and I haven't seen him since my son was 4 months old. He has a keg in his house that he fills weekly, a 7-gallon kegerator of Yingling that him and, mostly him and his wife take care of on a weekly basis. He's a pack-a-day smoker. Has been since I was little. He wasn't a bad guy, I hate people to think that of him. He wasn't horrible. I just could never connect with him. He was the most closed-off person I've ever met in my life. I don't know. I spent my whole childhood just trying to get any kind of attention off him that wasn't him yelling at me. Because he was a drinker, I have some pretty horrific memories. He was not a nice drunk. He was a very mean drunk. He dented my mother's cheekbone in their early 20s. He used to chase me under the bed when he got really mad at me, and he would swing a belt under there with a big gold eagle belt hook on it where the tips of the wings stuck off, and he cut my knee with it once. But when times were good, they were good. I mean, he took us fishing. Maybe that's where I get my obsession with fishing. My grandfather was a big fisher. He was a Marine. And he took us fishing when we lived on Long Island when I got older. Because my dad left when I was like 11. I mean, he was always being deployed and stuff like that for a couple months at a time. And when I was about 11, the shit hit the fan. I don't know. He's an Aquarius. My mother's a Taurus. And they just, she wouldn't change. And by all accounts, I know that he tried, but it just didn't work out. And it was a very nasty and toxic divorce. And after they got divorced, he was forced by the military to pay a lot of alimony and a lot of child support. But because he paid a lot of alimony and a lot of child support, I never received a phone call or a birthday card or a Christmas present. Not while I was at my mother's anyway. I never received any of that after that. He never really called or anything else like that. He did show up at my school when I was 14. And I was supposed to be in study hall, and they took him to the study hall class, and I wasn't there, and the teacher told them she was here for 2 days, and then she stopped showing up. So they ran into a hall aide, asked her, and she knew where I was. I was in the cafeteria because I didn't want to sit in study hall and sleep. I'd rather hang out. Anyway, so the first time he comes to see me after about 3 years, and I'm not in the class, I'm skipping class. So he pulls me from school and he took me to get my belly button pierced. Like, that was the great bonding experience. He took me to the mall. We had lunch, and he asked me what I wanted, and I told him I wanted to get my belly button pierced. So he took me at 14 to get my belly button pierced. And then I didn't see him again until I was 16. And when I was 16, I went to go stay with him where he's at now in Florida. And yeah, I don't know, it's just low key. Like, we never really talk or anything. And I mean, at 16, this was our bonding experience. He went to go get himself beer because it was before he had his keg in his house. So he went to go get himself a 6-pack, and he brought me back a 6-pack of wine coolers. So at 16, that was my visitation with my father. Just sitting around drinking. He didn't let me get smashed or anything else like that. And it wasn't like I wasn't already drinking already at 16. But that was pretty much it. And, you know, and I was smoking cigarettes by that point, and he was just like, if you're going to smoke cigarettes, then, you know, you should smoke this. And he tossed me a big cigar, and I just looked at him. I was like, can I keep it? Because all I could think about was using it to roll a blunt when I got back to Virginia. Was it Virginia or New York? Don't matter. Went back to wherever my friends were. Didn't matter where I lived. I ran with a badass crowd. But yeah, so that was at 16. So when did I see him again after that? I saw him again. Oh man. I guess about 18, 19. We went to a family reunion. And, oh no, it was my great-grandmother, his grandmother's 90th birthday party. And we saw him then. And my sister was even there for that one. And then, I didn't see him again until I was 23. And I was 8 months pregnant with my boyfriend. And I had no place to go, and he let us go stay with him. And And even though we stayed with him for 8 months pregnant, so my son was 4 months old, 4 or 5 months old, so 5, 6 months, you couldn't please the man. There was nothing me or my boyfriend could do to make him happy. My poor boyfriend, he desperately tried to impress my father. He worked 2 jobs. He was riding his bike to school, but nothing was ever enough because he worked night shift, and if he slept during the day, my dad would give him shit. Didn't matter how much he mowed the yard, cleaned the pool, washed my dad's dogs for him. He did all this shit for my dad. My dad just didn't like the kid, didn't want nothing, just was going to give him a hard time. So the last time I saw my father, I had a fight with my boyfriend in my father's house. And my boyfriend had punched a door and he dented it. And I knew right then and there, I was like, oh, fuck, my dad is not gonna handle this. There's no way. I'm like, he's gonna lose his mind. So we call around, we get wood putty, we get paint, we get the whole 9 yards we fix the dent in the door and we paint it. And you can't even tell there was a dent in the door. And then we called my father to tell him, because my dad is severely OCD with cleaning and organization and stuff like that in his house. I knew even no matter how well we fixed it, he was going to notice that there was a difference in the door. I just knew it. And I'm just not one to hide shit like that. I'd rather come out and be open about it. Anyway, so he kicked my boyfriend. He was going to kick my boyfriend out at that point over the dented door. And I never understood that point, because this is the same man at the same age as my boyfriend was, dented my mother's face. So, it's like, at least the man didn't put his hands on me. All he did was dent the door, and we fixed it. So we moved out when my son was 4 months old, and my son is 11 now, and I have not spoke to my father since. As far as I know, we didn't leave on bad terms. It wasn't like it was a big fight or ugly or anything else like that. He said he had to go, and I said, okay, if he's going, I'm going. And we packed our stuff and we left. I called him a couple of weeks later to see if I could pick up some of the baby stuff I had left behind, and he informed me that he had already given it all away. And I haven't really talked to him since. He's talked to my sister since. He's always talked to her. Oh, my sister was daddy's little girl, man. She could do no wrong. He coached her baseball teams and did all this crap with her. He called her on her birthday several times, when we were older too. I can distinctly remember the year that I turned 21. He had called my sister's answering machine and sang happy birthday to her phone. My sister's a Pisces, born in February. And he had called and sang happy birthday to her answering machine. And then he had stopped by about 2 weeks before my birthday, and I had reminded him that it was I was like, oh, I'm turning 21 in 2 weeks. And he's, oh, I know. Da-da-da-da-da, just small talk. And then he left. And I really thought I was going to get a phone call that year from him. But it didn't come in. He's never in my 35 years of existence on this planet as his clone, he has never called me first. Any effort to connect with him has always been an extremely painful and humbling experience for me, because it never works. And Yeah. So it always turns into a standoff. The grand Aquarius Aries stubborn standoff. I'm not going to call because I don't think they like me and I don't think they want to talk to me. So we're just never going to talk and resolve anything. So my great karmic quest for this summer is to attempt to get past some of the bullshit child trauma of it and contact my father, because he is still a drunk and he's still a pack-a-day smoker, and I know that he will go to the grave before he calls me. So, and I think that he would like to see my daughter because he'd probably like her a lot because she's just like my sister. So, that's where I get most of my demons, my mean attitude, my addictive personality, my redneck, and my stubbornness. Comes from my Aquarius father. Alright guys, that's about all the emotional purge I can do this morning. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I was hoping she would come back. I wonder where she went. She must have found her someplace to chill with some crabs or find something to eat. But talk to you guys later.